Well, good morning, everybody. Sorry about the little technical glitches, but I'm happy to be here today. I am currently the Director of Marketing for Amigo Air Show. Please raise your hand if you've heard of Amigo Air Show. Okay, so I'm doing my job pretty well. Yes, so Amigo Air Show is a community event that has been going on for a few decades, since the 1980s. It did go away for about 12 years, and so we brought it back last year, actually. So it was really exciting to be able to not only bring back this community event, but we're also rebuilding the organization. So we're doing multiple things at once, and it's a huge event. Last year we had over 60,000 attendees at Fort Bliss. Unfortunately, this year, because of the government shutdown, we did not get to have our show. I don't know if you heard, but we literally got shut down the Friday before as we were having our practice show. So we were pretty devastated about that. But that in itself was a whole crisis communication that we had to deal with. There's so many things that come into play. Fort Bliss, and then working with the media and the public, our sponsors. It was a lot to do in that time frame, but everything that you do in every single job is a learning lesson. And everything you do, they're building blocks. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit today about my career and kind of how I got to where I'm at today with those building blocks. Just a little bit about me before we get started. I am the fun tia of 6 nieces and nephews. I have 3 fur babies, a golden, a husky, and a little terrier mix. I love to travel, and I am also first generation, meaning in my family, I'm the first one to go to a 4-year college with a bachelor's and a master's degree. So just a little bit about my background here. So in communication, we do a lot of it's a mix, right? Marketing, public relations, and event planning and marketing is probably my favorite thing to do. And I'll tell you how I discovered that that's what I actually loved doing. So I started a few years ago in my first corporate job. It was based out of LA. I was not based out of LA, but the company was. And so this was my first job getting my feet wet. It was my first real job, if you will, out of college. I did struggle for about a year to try to find actually a job in marketing. But once I did, it was very entry level, but I learned a lot. This is where I started stacking my building blocks towards my career. So I did a lot of community outreach. Any community event, we were out there. We did a lot of grassroots marketing because we didn't have a big budget for marketing. So anything that we could do, events that we could be at, we were there. I also noticed really quickly that my training in LA versus my actual work in El Paso was very different. And that's when I started learning the markets just don't work the same. So corporate would tell us, like, you need to do this. And we were like, but it doesn't work here in El Paso. So we kind of had to be that messenger of what does work here. I also dabbed into public relations, media buys, and event planning. And I didn't realize throughout the jobs that I had that I was doing event planning, but I was, and I enjoyed it very much. I just didn't know how much I really actually enjoyed it. After that, I moved on to working with the city. This was a public affairs team. We were going for like a serious look. But honestly, when you think government, you think, maybe it's kind of boring and politics. But honestly, this was one of the funnest jobs I had. And I got to work with the public affairs office in itself, which means I got to work with every single department in the city. And every single department, it's just really cool to see how it works behind the scenes. I got to work a lot with of course, the mayor, city council. And this job is what really helped me started building relationships and networking. And those relationships and those networkings is what's going to move you along through your career. It is true, in a sense, it's who you know at the end of the day. I actually tried getting into the city for 3 years. Since I graduated, I would apply to every single job. I would get a rejection letter. I would get an interview, and they would say, no, thank you. And so I didn't know anybody at the city. And that's where people were telling me. They were like, you need to know somebody. And I'm like, I don't know anybody. So eventually, I applied for a job. I applied for so many jobs at the city that when they called me, I was like, I didn't even know what I was interviewing for. So I just went in and I was like, okay, well, let's see what happens. And my boss at the time, well, who was going to be my boss, she was in the interview and she was very engaged with me. And I was like, okay, I feel like this is going well. And so she gave me the chance. She gave me that chance to step from my last job into this role. And this role, I mainly was in charge of the social media. And so looking back at it, they wanted somebody younger with fresher eyes to kind of engage the younger public and just let them really know what was going on in their city. And so I got to do a lot of fun things here. So social media, this was my real big experience with social media. And also, this job helped me expand my public speaking skills, my communication skills. So one of the things that, we had a spokesperson for the city. Like, we had a person who would do most of the, camera work, and I was behind the scenes. I was with my phone, I was recording, and one day my boss tells me, she's like, hey, I need a video for, I don't know, whatever we were promoting. And I was like, okay, let me get with Rick, I'll pull the camera, I'll do the interview. She's like, no. She's like, I want you to do the video. And I said, what? I had never been in front of a camera speaking. I had never done anything like that. I was very shy. I didn't like it. But at this point, it's my job, right? Like, I got this opportunity. And I said, okay. I was like, I'll do it. But she didn't stop there. No. She said, do it with the mayor. And I said, what? She's like, yeah, go do a selfie video with the mayor. And I was like, a selfie video with the mayor. Go into their office, ask them what time they're available, and just do the video. I said, okay. So here I am walking into the mayor's office, and I'm like, excuse me, is the mayor available? And so I finally, tell him what we're trying to do. And he comes out, and there I am with the phone, shaking, like trying to keep my hand steady because it's the mayor. I've never been on camera, and I'm nervous. So, but thanks to that single experience and her just pushing me to do these things, I was able to grow on those skills. And so the next thing that came about, I don't know if you guys follow this social media account. It still exists under I Am El Paso. And so this was her attempt to reach the younger audience. And so she said, make me a proposal for an Instagram account. And it was me and my coworker. And we said, okay, yeah, that'll be fun. And so I did not want to create a page that it was like the city of El Paso. The handle was at City of El Paso. I'm like, nobody wants to follow something that's like city government. Like, what are we going to put behind it? Like, what's the content? What are we trying to do? So, can somebody tell me why the name I Am El Paso? Anybody want to take a guess? Yes. Right. So I feel like El Paso, and people in El Paso, either they don't like it and they want to get out, or you're here and you love it and you're proud to be an El Pasoan. And so we wanted something that would resonate and connect with the people. And so we thought of I Am El Paso. And so we launched this whole social media campaign within a few months. And they asked me, they were like, well, how are we going to grow it? Now, keep in mind, this is still, Instagram is fairly new. There's not a lot of like paid ads or things like that. So everything has to be organic. And so it was a lot about like the content that we had. And one of the things that worked amazing was giving out free promo items. Who doesn't want a free t-shirt that says I Am El Paso, a free cap? So we were already at all these events around the city. So I said, let's just do a table and promote the social media. Why? Because at my previous job, that's what I did. I did community outreach. I went out and I talked to people about our products and services. So I was like, same thing. And so within a couple of years, I don't want to say back in the day because it sounds like so long ago, but back in the day, hitting the 10K mark in Instagram was it. Like once you hit 10K, you could get verified. You had like all these other things that you could do. It's very different now, but once I hit that 10K, I was like, I did it. I was like, I felt accomplished. And at that point, I was promoted to another job. So I handed over the account, but this is my baby. I still call it my baby. It still exists. So it's one of the things too about looking back at your career. What is it that you were able to do to leave your mark, to leave your stamp within there? So this is one of them for me. And this was just some examples of the content that we had. We did a lot of behind the scenes and of course like what's going on with the city. We started doing giveaways, different things like that. Another thing that I implemented was a social media segment called Fact Friday. And this was just to promote the different departments every week, let people know what's going on. It used to be a Facebook Live and then it just evolved into something a little bit different. But going from being so nervous to do a little selfie video with the mayor to just being able to do a Facebook Live and you don't know what's gonna happen. You can't, go back and edit anything that's live. So I was able to see my growth throughout working at the city. And this is something that they kept also a few years after I left. I don't think they do it anymore though. And then we did win social media award for a campaign that we did for something that's called All America City. We went 2 years. The first year, we were on the top 5. And so the next year, we were like, we know exactly what we're going to do to win. And so we looked at our competitors. We looked at what they did, the previous winners before. And we just upgraded everything that we were doing. And the following year, we won the award. Very exciting times. This is just some examples of the campaign. Somewhere in between this, I decided it was a great idea to go back to school, to work full-time and go get a master's. It was at the time. So I was juggling school. I was juggling a full-time job. It was a lot. It was a lot. Eventually, I burnt out. I went to my advisor, and I said, I can't. I'm not going to do it anymore. If I do one more semester, I'm going to have a breakdown. And so she said, I had an amazing advisor at UTEP. And she said, it's okay. She's like, take one semester off, come back, and just finish. That's all I needed, a semester. I was a semester away from finishing my degree. Well, I did not go back at that time yet. But before I go into that, so these are the building blocks that I got from this job. I dived a lot into social media, video production, photography. I was part of a lot of crisis management moments, and especially community engagement. So outreach engagement, they're a little bit different. So I started stacking my blocks. So I left the city. For a brief moment, I worked for the Hospitals of Providence, but that was right during COVID, which at the time, afterwards, I was like, maybe it wasn't such a smart move to try to go back to corporate. I should have just stuck it out a little bit, but it's okay. Because one thing that you'll see is that the decisions that you make, even though they don't feel right at the time, it'll take you exactly to where you need to be. And even if you take a few steps back at some point, those steps back will bring you to where you need to be. Even if you don't see it at the time. Because I was there. I was like, ugh. So I went into the nonprofit world during COVID. We did a lot of food drives. We were considered essential, so we were, I never got to work from home, but we did a lot of this work throughout the community. which was great. It was very needed during the time. It felt good to be able to help out the community in that way. So I put together a lot of events like this. Another thing that I did were fundraisers. Never in my life had I done fundraisers. Have I picked up the phone to call sponsors and be like, hey, we need money for this. Will you help us out? So that's one thing that this organization, Amistad, helped me build on. And that in stewardship, so taking care of your sponsors, those who are donating. I also dabbed into website management and a little bit more of graphic design. I would create their ads, billboards, newspaper, you name it. Because being a nonprofit, you don't have a lot of resources. So I didn't have a marketing team that could help me with that. So I was the graphic designer. I did the media buy. I did fundraisers. I did everything under the sun for this organization. Which was great because then I learned new skills, even though it was overwhelming at times. So from here is where I got introduced into the nonprofit world. Like I was saying, I learned about fundraisers and stewardship and sponsors, donors, which was all great. Oops. Oh. Okay, how do I pause this? Okay, after, while I was at Amistad, the nonprofit, I started thinking, I need to go back to school. It's been 2 years. I need a semester. If I don't do it now, I'm never gonna do it, and I'm just gonna regret it. I put in all that time, all that work, all that effort, all those nights, while working, I was like, I just have to go back. But I knew if I stayed at Amistad, it was gonna be the same thing. I was gonna be overwhelmed because I was a one-person marketing team and I just had too much going on. So for some reason, the stars aligned. And I had already been working on my master's project while I was at the city. And I took the recycling program as my project. And so every paper that I wrote was leading towards my final project for that one semester. Well, it just so happened that while I was deciding to go back to school, someone at the city called me and said, hey, we have this position available at Environmental Services. Would you be interested? And I said, what? Yeah, I'm like, that's perfect. Like, I'm doing my program on the recycling program. What better way than to do it firsthand, have the information and just know everything firsthand for the project. The only downside was I was taking a pay cut. I was taking a pay cut in position and in salary, obviously. And so I thought about it for some time, and they basically said, if you want the job's yours, just let us know. And so I had a hard time with that decision because I was already at a comfortable salary, comfortable title, if you will. So for me, it was taking that step back. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I know I'm gonna be able to get my master's, and I know once I get that, that will pay off. So I took the job, I took the pay cut, but I also learned so much from this job. This was the job that actually showed me how much I liked event planning. So we did these community cleanups, but one of the things that they first tested me with was Earth Day. And this was my favorite thing to do. I geeked out on it so much, like everything about it. The logistics, the entertainment, what are we gonna have and what are we gonna do? And also the good thing about this job is that I did have a team. So I didn't do it all by myself, which was great. I had somebody to help me in marketing. I had an outreach team. So we were able to put this event together. I did it for a couple years. One of the things that I did here that I kind of left him with by the time I was done with this job is our little mascot here. His name's Mundo. So I thought Earth Day needs a representative, something fun, like something for the kids. And so we created this little character. His name's Mundo. And so every year, moving forward, he was the face. We changed his little outfit here and there, depending on the theme, which was really cute. But one of the things that I wanted to do, I was like, we need like an actual mascot. Like, we need Mundo live. And so that's one of the things that I was working on when I left. And after I left, they ended up getting him, and my team reached out to me and like, look, like Mundo came to life. And so it was really cool to see that. And so Earth Day was about 3,000 attendees eventually. Some of the things that I did at Environmental Services too, went to conferences and just talked about our recycling program, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with, but we had a whole program just for recycling and community engagement. And then, so adding more event planning to my building blocks. So all this brings me to where I'm at today, Amigo Air Show. So as I was telling you earlier, I went from planning a 3,000 person event to a 60,000 person event, which I don't know, to me, it's amazing. If the work that goes behind every single detail, these flyers here, my gosh, like that took so much time and detail. I didn't design this, we have a graphic designer that does it, but you go into an event or anywhere, even a small event, and you see things here and there, and you don't really think the work that goes behind it. Bringing these lunches and waters today, like, kind of magically appeared, right? But somebody did the work behind it. And so you don't really think about that when you go to events. When you go to events, you're just like, wow, like, like this is cool and this and that. But I have a newfound appreciation whenever I go to events, and I can't help it, but I'm just looking at, oh, look at that. And I'm like, I bet that took like hours of just, editing and doing this and that, going back and forth meetings. But this is my second year with Air Show, and I absolutely love it. I love what I do. It is a lot of stress, I'm not going to lie to you. I was just telling Lisa and Vianney today that they caught me at a good time because we're past Air Show season, so it's kind of slow right now. But those months leading up to it is just, the amount of work is incredible. And there's a lot of nights that I, work late, or I work just straight, like no days off, like no weekend, like nothing, right? And so sometimes you're just so tired and you're just like, why am I doing this? I'm like, who's even gonna notice if I make this flyer, or who's gonna notice if this social media post? But people notice. And for me, it was seeing the event last year come to life that was just amazing. Like, it just gives you a rush. It just gives you this high of like, oh my God, like all those months, all that work, all those nights, and people just kept coming in and you see the little kids like, wow, like with the planes, and it's a really good feeling. So for me, all that work that I do throughout the year, when I see this, it's absolutely worth it, and I love it. And I love the weekend of, like, there's so much movement. And if you guys, little shameless plug here, but if you guys ever want to volunteer, let me know. It's really amazing. It's unlike any event that you'll see in the community, because the volunteers in itself, we are a community, and just how everybody comes together. Even with the shutdown, everybody was like, everybody was devastated, because not just for staff, but we have tons of volunteers. We had over 1,000 volunteers ready for the weekend, ready to commit their time. We had our sponsors who gave us money. We had the public that bought their tickets. And although they understood, they were still, upset that it got canceled. A few other things. One of the things that has helped me a lot, and I could speak for these three organizations because I've experienced them firsthand, but networking. If I could go back and do it again, I would have started networking since I started college, but I didn't. I didn't because I was very focused on, I just need to do well in my classes. I need to work. I had no choice. I had to work. And most of the internships that they offered at the time, they were unpaid. So to me, I was like, I cannot afford to do an unpaid internship because I have to work. For the first year in college, I took the bus. It took me 3 hours to get from the Northeast to UTEP. And after that year, I was like, I need a car. I'm like, I need to buy a car. So I had to work. I had no choice. But I eventually came across these organizations. So PRSW is Public Relations of the Southwest. Has anybody heard about this organization? Oh, okay. You guys need to get involved with this organization. This is all for communication professionals. And so usually what they do, they'll have events where they bring a panel of speakers and just kind of cover different topics. But not only that, then you start meeting people in other organizations and you start connecting, and that's when the opportunities start to come about. Alpha is, it's an organization for Latinos, but it's not just for Latinos, but it's about empowering professional Latinos. I had the opportunity actually to be on the board for all three organizations, which was a great experience. Because like I said, you meet people of like all sorts of, with all backgrounds. And so here we did several events too for Latinas, for Latinos, connecting them with other professionals. I got to do a training with them in Austin, which was really cool because then you meet all the other chapters in the nation. And the other one, if you are going to really pursue your career in communication, Toastmasters. I did not hear, have you guys heard of Toastmasters? No, okay, you guys, after this, if you guys want to, I'll connect you with the right people for these organizations. I didn't hear about Toastmasters until, I think it was like 2020. And what this basically is, you meet once a week, in a small setting, and you practice your public speaking skills. So if you're not very comfortable with it, it's a safe place to do it, and your peers give you feedback. Like you'll sign up to do a 7-minute speech, and then they give you feedback on, anything that you need to improve on. So, highly recommend Toastmasters as communication students. It will make a world of a difference. Then you won't be shy to go do a social media video with the mayor or whomever. But yeah, I think that's all I have.
For all that great information you shared with everybody who attended. I will also say for PRSW that they often, are you guys still offering a scholarship to students once a year?
They did. I'm not sure if they're doing it anymore. I'm not on the board anymore, but we were offering
so that would
scholarships.
Be another reason to get involved because you could apply for that. You don't have to be a member to apply for the scholarship, but keep your eyes out for it because they do support students at EPCC and UTEP and a few scholarships. So they're really great organizations. But we have about 15 minutes that are available if you have any questions or things you want to follow up with Ms. Esparza. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Hi.
I really found your story really inspiring.
Thank you.
You mentioned that networking here in Boston is super different. What do you believe?
Can you repeat that?
You mentioned that networking here in Boston is different than like other cities.
Oh, marketing. Yes, market. So when I had this corporate job that the company was based on LA, they would already create like all the marketing pieces, and they would say, just here, like print this flyer or take this, or you should do your event this way, the way they did it in LA, right? And we were just like, well, it doesn't work. The flyers have to match your demographic, and the flyers were not matching the demographic. So, you know, they had people from like all different races except Hispanic. We're like, we're a Hispanic market. I'm like, where are my Hispanics? I'm like, give me a Hispanic on the flyer. So things like that, you start realizing that whatever you're doing here or they're doing over there doesn't really work here. And so you have to, are you from here? Are you from El Paso? So you're pretty familiar with your community. So you start taking all that you already know and see how you could apply it to your job or whatever it is that you want to do. Did you have a question specifically regarding networking?
Not necessarily because I want to like do the social media management, but I've heard, especially from my boss, saying that everything in the process like about connections and knowing people.
Yes.
So like we highly recommend that I go to like a bigger city like Austin and Dallas, where they're more like offering like offer internships and stuff like that to students. So I think that's where.
Yes, that's a great point, actually. I know several people who were able to take internships outside of El Paso. So 1,000%, if you get that opportunity, do it. I didn't get the chance to do it, but I worked with what I had here, and I was still able to expand my network. But definitely, if you go to any company that is offering, especially if it's a paid internship, do it. Don't be afraid to leave El Paso and try different things. Yes.
Would you say it's easier to network other places in here? Like you say you like have there's more opportunities to work like anywhere else in like, for example, like LA, cities like that. Would you say you had an easier time networking there?
I don't want to specifically say there's more opportunities elsewhere. I honestly feel like I've been very lucky to have really good jobs here. But I guess, for example, when I was involved with Alpha and we went to this training, we got to meet the different chapters. So yeah, so then you start talking to Alpha in Detroit and Alpha in LA, and then you just kind of see what type of events they're doing and what's working for them, and then see if you could try to see how it could work here. So if you find a local organization or a nationwide organization that has a local chapter, that's a really good opportunity too. That training for me was really cool. It really opened up other ideas that I wasn't even open to. So, did I answer your question? I didn't really get to network in other cities. I haven't lived outside of El Paso, so this was like the closest thing to networking with other cities.
I have a question for you. I think it was very nice, first of all, that you showed us some of the skills that you gained in every job, because it's not easy to say, hey, I don't know everything about marketing or advertising. How were you, and I get this from my students, how were you able to get some of these jobs that say, maybe like when you read the job description, you need experience doing social media lives, planning events. Yet it seemed like you learned a lot of those things on the job. So how did you get there? I also have students who think it's really hard to get an internship because they want you to have previous experience. But how are you supposed to, like, it's kind of like this never-ending complaint. So what are some of the things that you did to communicate maybe your skills or your interest in some of these jobs?
Great question. So, for example, with the city, when I was interviewing for that job, and it was heavily based on social media, and my previous job didn't really give me that experience because, like I said, corporate did most of the marketing and just kind of handed it down. I try to focus on other things that they were looking for. So I told them, well, I have experience working with media. I have experience doing media buys, press releases. And so they actually gave us a test. They said, create a graphic. And I was like, I never created a graphic. And the other one was write a press release. I was like, I don't know how to write a press release. So I focused my attention on that because I knew I was going to be able to do it. And the graphic was just a graphic. I was just like, this is what it is. And so what they ended up doing there, they hired two of us at the same time. And I feel like they just combined our skills because it was also a very entry-level job. So I think they were just like, well, he has graphic design and she can do PR, public relations, so let's just bring them both on board. And that was, like I said, that job opened a lot of doors for me, and that's, you kind of just take the best of what you know in each job. Even if it's not where you want to be now, find areas that you're like, I kind of like this, I can expand on this, so that when you're looking for the job that you have, you at least already have a little bit to give them. If it's not a lot, at least you're familiar with some of the areas. Yes?
When you were doing your job in politics, like working with the mayor and stuff, has that helped you expand in your like future jobs and things like that? Like, has that helped you network better? Has that helped you get you better opportunities? Like, did that help in any way?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, when I started this job, it was just very intimidating talking to city council, talking to the mayor, because you're like, well, it's people in power. Like, what am I going to say to them? Like, how am I going to tell them to do this video or what to say in the video? So gaining practice with that and just in itself getting comfortable of talking with people in higher positions, it just helps your growth, your communication skills, get a little bit out of yourself. You're not an extrovert. I don't consider myself an extrovert. I've had to work very hard to be up here and talking to people. But yes, I feel like that definitely helped open doors. And the other thing with social media is that it's fun. Like, it doesn't have to be so serious. So when I would go and talk to them, I would just be like, hey, we're making a fun video about this. And you know what? They were very open. When we were opening the water parks, we threw lifesavers on them, and they were for it. And so you start building those relationships with them, and they start getting to know you. And since you kind of have the fun job, you're not really involved in like the drama of the politics, and you're just the fun person. Like, you're just here for the video. And so you kind of start building that reputation for yourself too. So even when I left the city, and I would run into them, they'd be like, oh my God, good to see you, how are you doing? And so people talk. El Paso is so small. Marketing and PR is so small. So people talk. I mentioned that I briefly worked for the Hospitals of Providence right before COVID, but it was like 3 months because then I got furloughed. But it was just 3 months enough to leave a good impression with my boss, because that boss now is one of our sponsors. So he talked to my boss, and he was like, oh yeah, no, she's great. And I was just like, okay, good. So yes, even if you don't see it right away, if like you didn't make a connection right away and they connected you to like a job, it expands. It really does.